Extra time.
Hello and welcome back to the Extra Time podcast. It's me, one of your hosts, Patrick Van Straaten, and today I'm joined by podcast icon, Sam Obaseki. How are you doing, Sam?
Oh, Pat. Oh my gosh. I did not expect that from you. That's literally made my day. I'm really good. I'm really good now.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. I'm all right. I'm all right. Yeah, I'm ready for a podcast today that will depress me about my team not being involved in it. But we're also joined today by James Waine. James Waine stepping into the breach like a hero today, and the perfect candidate for the topic we're going to talk about. How are you doing, Waino?
I'm good. I'm feeling fresh. I'm gonna try my best with this conversation. I'm going to try and be as biased as possible, but I do think it'll be difficult.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be like a pure Homer conversation. I'm anticipating a horrible like to dislike ratio on this video because today we are discussing which team has the best starting 11 in the Premier League. I think this is a really, really tough one, right? Because basically we inevitably have to focus on three teams here, right? We're talking about Manchester City, we're talking about Liverpool, and we're talking about Chelsea. And we can discuss later on whether United are in the conversation. But I think inevitably as well, this is going to lead to a conversation about the title race. Because at the moment, a lot of talk going around that, Chelsea have made themselves favourites after a really phenomenal opening few weeks of the season. Man City, looking like a little bit of a work in progress, as they often do at the start of the campaign. So, guys, how should we do this? Should we talk about a team in turn, or does somebody want to jump straight in and make a case for why their team has the best starting 11 in the Premier League? Looking at no one in particular, Sam, but I think it could be you, Sam.
You know what? Yeah, I've been thinking about this topic since it's been said that we're going to talk about it, and I'm thinking, I don't want to be too prideful. I don't want to come too prideful and say, yeah, my team has got the best team in the league and we're just going to win the league. But after all of these weeks, all the games that we're playing and how we're winning these games, and, obviously you mentioned off screen that I put on Twitter after we beat Spurs, light work. Do you know what I mean? Because that's just how I felt after the game. I didn't feel like they really troubled us. And I don't really remember a game this season where a team has troubled me to that extent where I thought, oh no, we're not going to be able to get the win. Even when we went a one-man down against Liverpool, I still felt we could get something from that game. So talking about the XI, if we're going to start from keeper, obviously we're going to go through like all of the other teams, but with our team, I feel like a lot of the pieces that have been brought in have improved other players that may have fallen short in other seasons when they were playing under Lampard. So Mendy, for example, now that Mendy's in, I feel like he's improved Kepa a lot. I don't know if you saw him against Spurs, but the confidence that he was having, the amount that he was talking, his distribution was just so much better. There's so many players that's in this squad as well that people counted out. They said Rudiger didn't have a future at Chelsea. They said that Christensen didn't have a future. There was even points when they were saying Gorgino and Kane don't have a future at Chelsea because of different bad spells under the, was it last it was last season. Even feels like it was two seasons ago, but last season they actually were saying that these players aren't going to be in Chelsea's future. Now you're looking at our squad and you're thinking, they've added so much durability to our team, and any team that comes against us, you're just automatically thinking, okay, cool, we've got the best defence, we've got the most balanced midfield. We saw against Spurs when we had to switch it up because of the first half, how slow it was. We brought in Kane now, we're playing with Kane, Gorgino and Kovacic, and there was a balance that when Lampard was playing, they were saying, how could you play three CMs that there's not a player that can naturally attack out of the three of them, and then you see Kante bagging a goal. So it's just like Tuchel has brought so much out of this squad that I don't think people really thought could happen. And I'm not getting too gassed because it's very early on in the season. But when you see certain games like the game against Liverpool, the game against Spurs, even in the Champions League when we didn't play that great, but we still got the goal because of the main man Lukaku, the best. So in my opinion, right now, I think he's the best striker in the league. Yeah. I could even go as far to say the world. I could go far to say the world, but I don't want to go that far.
That's where I thought you were going with it when you started.
You've gone for I think best striker in the league, perfectly reasonable. Best striker in
Yeah.
the world, mental.
Okay. I'll settle in that. I say he's in the conversation 100%. But
Yeah,
yeah, no,
sure.
like I was saying, I just think that what Tuchel's done. Obviously, we've spoke about this on other podcasts, and I see James smiling because he's just not used to seeing me this happy about talking about Chelsea. But it's just the fact that he's turned it around and he's made all of our players look so much better than people thought they were, and that's what I'm happiest about. So yeah, I think we've got on paper the best starting 11 in the team. I don't know if I'd go as far to say full squad. I think it's tight with City, but obviously James will discuss that as well. But yeah, I think the amount of chances that we create in a game now, the amount of clean sheets that we keep, the balance that we have in the squad, the fact that we can change it up as well, the fact that we've got players that can fit into different molds. We've got a player for every different task that is needed. It's just, yeah. I'm just happy, bro. I'm just happy.
I mean, I can't really disagree with a lot of what you said, but I think when you said Tuchel has brought the best out of this side, I think that's... I would look at that in a slightly more negative way for this question, in that I think Tuchel is getting the best out of this team. I think the balance is really good, but I think on individual quality, I actually think this team trails City and Liverpool by quite a way. It's not really a criticism, you know.
Yeah.
It's more a testament to the great job that Tuchel's doing.
Yeah. No, I do hear that, and I think he's more created a system that everyone can thrive in. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? I feel like he had to do that when he came into Chelsea, because the team that was before him, we were kind of dependent on that individual quality from a Mount or Havertz or even a Werner when he was all right. Or even when our defence wasn't great, you'd almost hope that Aspilicueta would have a great game. You would hope that Silva doesn't get injured. But now he's made a system that so many players can come in and out of, and they almost there's like a standard that has to be met. So when you see Hudson-Odoi come on, or you see Ziyech come on, or Pulisic, they have to meet the requirements that Mount, Havertz, or even Lukaku has met before them. And I feel like everyone in the team has that in their mind, so they know that, okay, cool, we're all aiming for the same thing. Obviously, we want to win trophies, but this is the way we can do that. I think the fact that we won the Champions League has almost convinced everyone that this system, regardless of if I might want to dribble more, or I might want to play in a number 10 role like Hudson-Odoi, but I'm playing right wing back and I'm getting minutes. I might not get as many minutes as I thought I would, like Chilwell, but at the same time they're looking. You can see them in training, you can see them in and around the squad. Everyone's happy because it's almost as if he's created that environment where they know that it's not about individual quality, it's about all of us achieving what we can, and we proved it by beating City in the Champions League. A very amazing performance from the squad. Sorry, James, I just had to mention that.
My lip shut on this.
I had to mention that.
That's the first shot fired. So, I mean, James, can I bring you in here? Because, what I'd like to ask you is, when you look at this Chelsea side, are there weaknesses you see in it? How do you feel it compares to City, and do you think that... Because I think that quite an interesting way to look at this is how many players from Chelsea's starting 11 would get into City's, and it's and then it's not very many, I think.
I think we're kind of riding Chelsea's good form in terms of our perception of their team. I do think, they are all quality players, and there are some players who are, in my opinion, there is a player best in his position in the world, and like Kante, that is. But it's I think Man City at the moment, people are forgetting that our potential starting 11 if everyone's fit. I mean, this season we haven't seen Gundogan, De Bruyne, Foden, Stones, who I think is the preferred partner to Diaz. So I do think we're kind of seeing this Chelsea team in a light of their current form, which is phenomenal. And I mean, it's one of those things, if they carry on playing the way they are, then I really can't not see them winning the league.
We're just getting warm, James. We're just getting warm, though. That's why it's exciting.
Oh God, here we go.
Honestly, I'm really trying to be.
No, that's the thing.
humble,
It's scary that it's every time, for the last however many seasons, it's been Man City versus somebody for the title.
Yeah.
And I do feel that it's switching now to, although you can never really write Liverpool off, it's switching to Liverpool. But if we're talking about the individual, Liverpool and Chelsea. But if we're talking about the individual quality of the players, I do think we possess more stars than Chelsea. I do think a player like Ruben Diaz, I genuinely am falling in love with the man. Like, he's everything you want in a defender, and at such a young age is, I could keep talking about him for minutes and minutes. But yeah, we've got like Cancelo. People forget like Cancelo and Walker are both incredible fullbacks. Like Cancelo more so for the fact that he can play on both sides well. Just some of the stuff he does going forward is embarrassing to say the least. And yeah, like the fact we brought in Grealish this season, it's like as much as Chelsea is I would probably say currently a better balanced team. Obviously, we do have a lot of injuries. We do pip them, and I will say Liverpool as well. On the individual quality of the players, yes, I do think we have a better squad. I think I'm thinking of Liverpool now. Then there are some standouts in their squad as well.
Well, we'll come on to Liverpool in a minute, but I think that's interesting because like I look at City, and it's interesting you said squad because I think City's first 11 is better than Chelsea's, but actually I think the squad
really
is surprisingly thin in certain places. Like
certain places,
Chelsea's
definitely.
squad you have a lot of like attacking talent on the bench, and City have tons of attacking talent on the bench. I mean, like it's outrageous. But in the other positions on the pitch, I think that Chelsea might be a little bit deeper. Like, I mean, like I kind of find it weird that after, Rodri and Gundogan in midfield, you're at a very old Fernandinho now. In defence, I like Zinchenko, but it's still a little bit thin in some of those areas. Like I kind of find that surprising because we talk about City like spending all this money, but when you look around the squad, I think it's been so long now since you've bought like a lights out central midfielder, and that does just seem like a significant oversight to me.
I it's frustrating because as much as it feels like I can't complain about our transfer business because we spend so much money and we buy extremely good players. Like bringing in Grealish in the summer, people be like, "Oh, why are you complaining about this, that, the other? You brought in Grealish," but it's like it doesn't solve our problems. We've been calling for a left back for season upon season now, and as good as a stopgap Zinchenko is, as much as I like him as a player, he isn't really the quality that we need. Cancelo, yes, can play well there, but is a better right back. And the fact that we've had to put previous seasons we've had to put Fabian Delph in there and players like this is just confusing as to why we haven't bought a solid left back, as well as our kind of defenders. Like we do buy good centre backs, but they just seem to be injured all the time. It's most of these teams like Chelsea at the moment and Liverpool in previous seasons have had this solid back four that they've gone throughout the whole season with, and you see the kind of disruption when a player like you can say Van Dijk, but one of the back four gets injured, it really disrupts it. And we've never had a solid base back four for however many years, and it is frustrating. And I think the depth, like we do have, we have four good centre backs. Okay, not amazing, quality. I wouldn't say Ake's of the level of Man City, unfortunately, but Laporte and Stones definitely can be, and Diaz definitely is. But yeah, it's just injuries for the centre back positions. But left back is it's embarrassing, really, when you've got this kind of team that's pipped to win the Champions League every season. You've got some of the best attacking talent, the creative talent in the world, and then you haven't got a left back. It's just baffled me, really. Yeah,
that is a strange one. As is, I think, the focus on Kane in the summer. I mean, do we think that the lack of a recognised striker or an out-and-out centre-forward is going to cost City this season? Because it seems strange that they were kind of like, we're going for Kane, but didn't really pull all the stops out to get him. Then we'll have a look at Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, Sam, are you surprised that City didn't end up like just going for some striker, or they didn't have a sensible backup to Kane?
Yeah, I honestly don't understand City's like. I understand to a certain extent that they don't want to get bumped because obviously they had a price in their mind for how much they thought Kane was going to be and how much they were willing to spend on him. But at the same time, it's like if you know that you're letting go of the top scorer for your team in your history, it's not even the fact that he might not have been at the best that he was when he left. It's the fact that you're losing a player of that mold, that the team, like, there's always City fans, no matter what it is, no matter what his age is, they will always think when Aguero comes on, he's likely to bag a goal. They need to have that feeling again. And I don't think City fans and City, even people that just watch City in general, I don't think that they see that anymore. Like, when you see Ferran Torres, obviously he's done well. Gabby Jesus, he's done well. He's got in good positions. They've scored a few goals this season. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to be cliche, but when the going gets tough, like, you're playing against teams that are very stubborn, and you need that striker to make something out of nothing. And Kane might not even have been that mould. He might not have even fit into City, but knowing the quality that he does have, it was very likely that he would have scored many goals at Manchester City. But at the same time, if you're not going to go for a Kane, surely there must be another striker on the market that you think would fit that would be able to fit into our team, or would be able to work with our team and just understand the ideas that Pep has. But maybe they just felt to themselves that, you know what, like I've said on previous episodes, they've got at least 5 to 6 players, forwards in that team that can score plus 10 goals because of how City play. So they're always in their back in their mind thinking, we've won leagues this way. It might even be the same thing for when they're looking at their left back. They've won leagues with Delph at left back. They've won leagues with Zinchenko left back. They've got to finals and semi-finals with those positions not being at their strongest point. So they're probably thinking, because we've got Pep and we're almost there in terms of the whole squad, because realistically, not many teams, I think we're seeing it more now this season, but it wasn't like a regular thing for every team to just have like a top class or world class player in every single position. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what it's kind of getting to now. But City probably just think they just don't want to get bumped, and they already paid 100 mil for Grealish. I think that if they had known that Messi would have been out of contract, a week later, or was it on the same day? I think they would have possibly gone in for Messi. Might not have come because of the finance and maybe don't want to play in the Premier League. But yeah, I do find it strange that they didn't go for a striker if Kane wasn't available. And I almost think that they thought that Kane was going to do more to get that move done, because they were kind of just sitting there waiting for him to be like, you know, he's done an interview now. He's kind of said his own price in the interviews as well. He's spoke to Levy, all of this gentleman agreement stuff, but Levy, as we know, is very stubborn. We saw Pep react to that and say comments that, you know, it was hurting him slyly. He was like, oh, Levy's this guy, and you know he's stubborn, whatever. So you know he's feeling a type of way, and he's probably upset about it. But at the same time, I know that he believes that the squad that he has now, and with the addition of Grealish, they can still challenge for everything. But it's definitely going to be tougher, and weird that they didn't go for a different striker.
Yeah, the Kane thing almost reminded me of the time that City wanted Alexis Sanchez. Do you remember that summer where like everyone knew they wanted him, and then they waited till like the last day or the day before the last day to like make a real bid? And obviously, like Arsenal at that point were kind of like had to go and make a ridiculous bid for Thomas Lemar. But it was just kind of like, if you really want him, like go for him at the beginning of the summer. Because at the beginning of the summer, if you'd gone really hard for Kane, like Spurs could have maybe got Lautaro Martinez before Lukaku went to Chelsea. Like, I think Inter would have been more amenable to selling there. They could have gone for Tammy Abraham. Like, there were options earlier in the window. By the end, Spurs were like, we can't sell him now. We've got like literally nobody we can go and get. But I don't know. Yeah, it seems just to play devil's advocate. Like, looking at the numbers, City currently have far better numbers than Chelsea. They're the third in Europe for expected goals per 90. Like, their attack is absolutely through the roof. And actually, defensively, I think only Napoli have conceded less XG per game than them so far. Now, obviously, there are some effects here. So Chelsea played half a game with 10 men against Liverpool. City played half a game up a man against Arsenal. You know, like, those are factors in like running up scores. But even if you take that into account, like, they are a long way ahead. So I find it interesting that over the first few weeks of the season, the narrative seems to have totally flipped to like Chelsea are favourites. Like, James, do you think that is going to be more difficult for Chelsea now? Because like they basically have gone from being like a total mess back in January to being like champions of Europe, and now people saying they're title favourites. That is a significant change in the way they have to approach games, you'd have thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where you watch Man City week in, week out, and everyone knows it's like the cup final, when they play Man City. So you do get some games that are quite boring because it's just the fact that we're, like let's say, I won't say Norwich because we've obviously battered them this season, but there are teams that in the past that will just sit back, defend, make it as hard as they can. Like 0-0 is the perfect result for them. And Chelsea, obviously, they will have had that to a degree last season. Obviously less so with Lampard in charge, but they're really going to see it this season. And I think, I'm not too sure if I'm correct in saying this, but Tuchel's league form last season, I think, has been overshadowed by the Champions League win. I don't think he was too good in the league, enough to, displace, I think Liverpool were third, weren't they? So, yeah, I think he's going to come up against different challenges this season. I do think, though, that they are a team that confidence is sky high and they do believe they can beat anyone. So it'll be interesting for me to see the kind of balance of that, when they do come up against a team that are just in it for the 0-0 draw, how they really combat that. And I do think, I personally see him doing it. I think Thomas Tuchel is a manager that is doing a lot more than people are giving him. I know it sounds strange because everyone's talking up Chelsea, but I think before this, people really didn't think Thomas Tuchel like that much of him, and they're really seeing how good he is. And I don't want to say he's one of the top 3 managers like in the world, but he's kind of in the conversation.
Yeah, I think he probably is. Like, and also, when you look at something like Gorgino winning an individual award, which is, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like a good argument for like why we shouldn't take individual awards seriously. But like it almost, but it almost no, seriously, like I don't rate Gorgino much at all. I think he's like just a little bit above average. Like, but like,
Pat, don't do that, Pat. Honestly.
No, but I think but this is a way of praising Tuchel in that, like, I think when you start like giving like mediocre players like Jorginho individual awards, it implies that like these players are just amazing and like the manager is getting out of their way, whereas actually like that award should go to Tuchel. He has managed to create a system where I look at guys like Marcus Alonso, who I don't think is great. I think he has uses. I look at Jorginho, don't think he's great, but I think he has uses. And what Tuchel has done is take those guys and create a system which covers for all their weaknesses and accentuates their strengths. That is an amazing coaching job. And like, certainly, if you look at these 6 months, like what he's accomplished is incredible. Plus, when you look at Chelsea's numbers right now, the problem is the attack, right? The attack is still mediocre. Like, I think they're creating 1.5 XG a game. They're creating fewer shots a game than Arsenal. But Tuchel, everywhere he's gone, has created an amazing attack. And with the talent there, it's basically impossible that Chelsea don't end up with an amazing attack. So that means that there's loads to come from a side which is already just crushing people. And did you see, there was a tweet that went around this week about the number of goals that Tuchel has conceded in each game during his time, and it's just like 0-0-1, 0-0-1, 5 against West Brom. But other than that, like, you just do not, to score more than 1 goal against Chelsea is an almost impossible task, as Liverpool discovered when they were up a man. So it just feels like there's so much more to come from this Chelsea side, and that is a bit scary.
That's what I'm saying though. Do you know what I mean? I honestly think that people don't realise, like, when people are saying Chelsea are contenders, like you said, the numbers aren't great. When I'm watching Chelsea play, when
they're still good,
we're good, but we're not getting in positions and we're not utilising. Like, I've seen Lukaku make so many runs and he's not been found. I've seen Havertz make runs. Mount, he's not been that great in terms of being in the final third. But at the same time, because Tuchel's kept to his word with what he said at the beginning, he said he's going to make Chelsea a hard team to play against. He's going to make everyone not want to play us. And I feel like now, when you're seeing teams set up against us, it's almost as if he's limited their options. It's like you have to, if it's a team that's not as good as Chelsea or not in the top 5 teams, or top 10 teams, whatever, they're almost okay, cool, we're playing for a draw. But even with the top teams, it's like they have to defend well because they have to face up against one of the best strikers in the world, and if he pins you, it's a problem. You got Havertz and Mount that just constantly moving, constantly running. We've got a midfield of Gorgino, and even though you don't rate him, he's one of the, I think in what he does, he's the best at it in the world. There's no one that can almost. I've never seen a player. I've never seen a player like that's not that like strong or hasn't got that much like in terms of his passing ability is good, but he's not got that much variety. But he's so good at dictating a game and dictating a tempo of a game, and I think that that's even underrated. But it's almost a compliment to the people that he plays with, like Kante and Kovacic. They complement each other so well that it's like, okay, cool, yeah, this guy
worst
is
compliment you've ever given.
So
Sam.
what you're saying is Jorginho is good because like all the players around him make him look good.
He can pass to them.
Because
he can't really pass very well. He's a bit limited physically.
I've not said that.
This could literally be me talking about Granit Xhaka here.
No,
they are basically the same
mind. Xhaka's not got the mind to play like Jorginho. Jorginho's always got a picture of what he wants to do in the game.
Xhaka doesn't have the mind to cross a road by himself. He's a moron. But like, but I think if you put Xhaka into that team instead of Jorginho, I think Chelsea would get worse. But I don't think that they'd suddenly become a bad side. That's how good I think Tuchel's system is.
No, I don't think that's what I'm saying. You're not appreciating the mind.
Jordan Henderson in that role, and he doesn't.
No, I reckon you put Sam in that role. And I reckon that you finish like 6th.
This is the disrespect that I honestly don't appreciate, because honestly, Jorginho, I wish I had his numbers up here, but this guy, the way he dictates a game, and he's always got a picture of what is going on. The only time that he's ever struggled is when
he has to run or tackle.
No, his positioning is very good. He's always in the right position to either intercept the ball, to recycle the ball, to keep it moving, sometimes even get it forward. You need to watch this guy. Like, not even just the highlights or whatever. No, you don't watch him. You don't watch him enough. And you think he's boring, but it's not. Sometimes roles in the team can be boring, but it's so important when he doesn't play. And this is not taking anything from Kovacic or Kante, but there is that sense of almost calm and not even composure, because Kovacic and Kante have that, but it's like he's always got an idea, and he removes so much pressure from attacks, from us defending, and you just need to watch him more, because I
don't deny that, Sam. I don't deny any of that stuff, Sam. I'm just saying that like you could have a better player do that. So for instance, like 100%. The way somebody used to talk about this with Man City, right, was that like Man City could kill you by speeding the game up, which was De Bruyne, or they could kill you by slowing the game down, which was David Silva.
Yeah.
Like David Silva would slow everything down to walking pace, and then would just like have like the nose for when like the right run, the little burst would just like cut a team apart. I look at obviously they're different sorts of player, but I look at Jorginho and I see a very limited player who a manager has managed to turn into somebody who people think is one of the best midfielders.
But
did
you not see him at the Euros? Did you not see him at the Euros? It's not just at Chelsea.
Did you see Granit Xhaka at the Euros, Sam? He looked amazing. He's f***ing rubbish. He's so bad at football.
But Xhaka's mind is. Let me not even be too mad. I'm not going to say a mad, but Xhaka's not got the mental. I'm trying to not be deep.
Granit Xhaka's like, you know, when you were a kid and they'd like show you like the IQs of different animals, and it would be like Alsatian IQ of 60. Granit Xhaka is like right about there.
Oh my days!
Compare Granit Xhaka's like game smarts to like. No, I can't even like. I can't compare him to an intelligent player. It's just like too upsetting. Imagine comparing Xhaka to like Conte or something. It'd be so stupid. But compare him to like any player with a brain, like Jordan Henderson, who's also got.
I think Jordan Henderson's a good comparison. Do you genuinely think that Jordan Henderson wouldn't be better in that Chelsea team than?
No, I don't think he would. I don't think he would. I don't think I'm struggling with what I'm trying to pinpoint here, yeah. But
it should be easy.
No, because
why is a player good?
No, because you're not respecting what he's good at. Do you know what I mean? You're trying to make it seem like every player.
You're not telling us what he's good at.
I've listed what he's good at, bro. And you're trying to make it seem like any player can do that. I've seen Henderson's not got that ability to keep a game ticking to
What are you
get
talking
the ball.
about? That's the
No,
one
bro.
ability he
not
does
to,
have.
not to that extent, because Jorginho does it for Chelsea. He's done it for Italy. He done it before he was at Chelsea. Henderson, yeah, he's had patches. Henderson's quality, but I don't think if you put Henderson in the squad, yeah, he might be able to do some things that Jorginho does, yeah. But in terms of our system and the way Jorginho's mind works, and even before Tuchel came, we saw Jorginho under Sarri. Bro, you're not respecting his thing, innit?
Let's be honest, Jorginho not in the top 3 Italian midfielders this year. Let's move on to Liverpool, shall we?
Gosh.
Sam, I'm running the podcast today, so like I will just mute people. I don't even care. Like, okay, we're moving on to Liverpool because I think that somebody needs to make the case for Liverpool here. And like I guess the problem is like the way I phrase this title is a little bit ambiguous, right? Because like the best starting 11 could be interpreted as like the best team. Whereas I'm looking at it a little bit more as like the best individual quality. And when I look at Liverpool, okay, I think that there are maybe as like 7 guys in this team who are contenders for being the best in the world in their position. I think Alisson, Trent, Van Dijk, Robertson, Thiago or Fabinho, whichever one you want, Mane and Salah are all contenders for being the best in the world in their position. And I'm not saying they are the best. Some of them definitely are. But like the fact that you have that many contenders for the best in the world. Whereas I look at the Chelsea team, and like I've said, the Chelsea team is phenomenal. But how many of these guys are contenders for the best in the world in their position? Probably 2 or 3. Conte and Lukaku definitely, and maybe you could make a case for one of the defenders right now. But that to me is like it's not a lack of individual talent, but Liverpool's individual talent in their starting 11 is pretty staggering, I think.
Yeah. It's a tough one with Liverpool because you know what it is that I feel like the last few years that they've had when they won the Champions League, when they won the Premier League comfortably, that there was a confidence, and we spoke about this before, but Pat, like the confidence that they had was sky high. But then we saw last season when they got all those injuries and they were set back, and how the team reacted, and I wouldn't say luckily got third, but no one anticipated them to get third spot because of how their season was just all over the place, yeah. But I feel like now they've got these players, like Van Dijk is still one of the best centre-backs in the world. Alisson is still one of the best keepers. Trent, Robertson, Fabinho. But at the same time, when even the game that Chelsea had against Liverpool, I almost felt like, and it's not the first time I felt it as well, I've seen them play a few other games, I feel like sometimes they run out of ideas. And I think it's been a theme that I've seen with Liverpool since last season. You know, because there wasn't that gap of the season finishing and then pre-season, yeah, it's almost as if they got tired, but Klopp was like, we're still going to stick to what we're doing. You saw City adjust in the way they press, in the way they play, and how it impacted their team and made them kind of better. But I don't think Liverpool done that in a sense, and I think that some players, not that they're struggling with it, because their record is still very good this season. I think they've got an identical record to Chelsea in terms of like wins and results, like literally identical. But at the same time, I just think there's something missing, and I don't know what it is. And I don't know if it's the confidence. I don't know if it's the fact that even though Mane's looking better and Salah's still scoring goals, Firmino is just still Firmino. Their midfield, yeah, Henderson is who you lot think he is. Fabinho is a baller. Thiago, but I've not really seen, like, Thiago is a quality player, but I haven't seen him have a string of amazing performances for Liverpool. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I've seen him get ripped. Do you know what I mean? And I know that's possible. Same with Robertson. I've seen Van Dijk. Obviously, he's coming back from an injury, but I've also seen him not look at his best, even though he's back. Do you know what I mean? He's back, but I've seen players get at them, and it's like before I used to think Liverpool, once you play Liverpool, it's just long constantly. But yeah, man, this season I don't have that same feel with them. Like their team's not changed as much. They've even got better depth, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just a feeling thing for me, man.
To me, the thing that they're missing, I do understand what you mean, the thing they're missing, and to me it's been that third midfielder. right, who that guy has been. Like, because what you really want there, if they had like a Mason Mount alongside Thiago and Fabinho, then you'd kind of think, right, they're done. Like, they don't really need anything else. And I think that at the beginning of the season, it looked like Elliott might be that, but now I'm not sure how long.
Yeah, 100%.
And to be honest, he looked incredible. Like, he was really knitting together the attack. And so it'll be interesting to see how they do without him. Because while I really rate Keita, I like the Ox, I like Curtis Jones, none of those guys does the same stuff as Elliott. But I mean, it's interesting the thing you said about the way they went to pieces last season. Because I'm kind of a bit of a like mentality denier. I'm just kind of like, we don't really know what it is. When a team wins, they apparently have a winning mentality. But it was kind of shocking the way that Liverpool, after they lost a couple of games, just kept losing relentlessly and were rattled.
They were so rattled. Klopp was... I've never seen him like that. He was gone, like, even, and that's the thing, when you've seen a man like that and a team like that, you almost know that they're up against it with their new season. Like, it's not like like the biggest uphill battle, because their team is still quality. But like you said, the mindset that they were in last season was completely different to when they won the Champions League. The confidence that they had when they had won the Premier League, they pipped City, the first team to do that in how many years. So it's like they had that. But once they lost Van Dijk, then they were getting Robertson getting injured, and they were having Milner playing centre-back sometimes and playing right-back and playing across the whole back line. Their mindset changed.
Yeah, I think it's still like, I think it's their own doing though, because their depth has just been so weak that when someone gets injured, or even saw it on the weekend, like Trent was ill or something, and then Milner had to come in, and it's just like the drop off. Although Milner's still kind of an okay player just to pop in when you need to, but he's literally just a plaster. He's not a player; he's a plaster. And
yeah, he had to reiterate that.
The drop off is incredible.
That is really good though.
It's scary. Like, you would be in that mind state of kind of going, if someone gets injured, let alone Van Dijk, you're in a bit of a sticky situation. And even Harley Elliott's injury kind of puts the question: are they going to be this kind of? Although actually the midfield is still very, very good. You saw the progression of Harvey Elliott in that side, and it's like, okay, now it's a step back. Luckily, it hasn't. I say luckily, but for them, luckily, it hasn't really affected them too much. I can't really see it affecting them too much anyway. But for me, it's, their depth really it puts everything on kind of. I don't know how to phrase it, but it makes everything more scary. Let's say. The fact that like one player gets injured, everything crumbles, and then the mentality of the players goes. And can Klopp bring? Because you've gone through 2 years or 3 years of being such a dominant team who nearly got there, who got there eventually. You've won it all, and then it's like, bang, massive injury, bang, massive injury. So that's going to affect everyone, not only Klopp, not only the team. So I do think that their own doing in not having depth has affected their mentality for that season, but they've kind of corrected it a little bit, bringing in Konate, although like, he is a player that is going to be in the rotation. He is a player that when you have, let's say, Van Dijk and Gomez injured, isn't the likes of, I can't even remember the names of the people they had last season, because the quality was that poor. So that they are trying their best, I guess, to kind of fill these holes. But yeah, but I wanted to, like, if we're talking about the starting 11, which I think this is like on paper starting 11, I really like your point about the kind of best in the world conversation players in the side. I actually can't deny how strong it actually is. Like, but it's as soon as you go into the second position of that, the Chelsea and City do have, it's just abysmal. Like, if it was who has the best starting 11, you could probably easily argue it's Liverpool. But then if you take away all those players, and then I know this is a really awful argument, but you take away all the starting 11, let's say they all got injured, the best, Chelsea and Man City could probably still hold for a top 4 finish. Liverpool would be abysmal. They would be absolutely abysmal. They would probably be fighting relegation. And it's yeah, it's the massive. It's the thing they've chosen. They've chosen the starting 11 over the squad, and I think it's worked. It has worked. They've won everything they've wanted to win, but the longevity of it, like these players are getting older. Van Dijk's getting older. Salah's 29 now, and although he's still ridiculous, okay, you can't fault the guy. He's going to get older, and you're going to have to replace these players, and they're just hanging on to them, signing new contracts, and it's I think it's really bad, really bad.
And that's the thing I was going to say as well. Yeah, like Pat, this is a question for you. Yeah, what scares you? Obviously, I think I know your answer, but what scares you the most about Liverpool? Because I'd say, like, obviously Salah, we know he's a constant goal scorer. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like the seasons that they've had and that we spoke about, it was the Trent from deep, it was the Robertson overlapping, it was Salah. Yeah, and Mane. But now it's almost as if they haven't really switched up the way, and I'm not expecting like every team to like reinvent themselves the way City reinvented themselves last season after they had their poor start. But I think that constant thought that Klopp has is that this is my way, regardless of who we have in. If a player's injured, we're going to continuously play this way. I almost feel like it's taking some fear away from them, because everyone is like, okay, cool, when we play against Liverpool, we know for the first 10 minutes, especially if it's Anfield, they're just going to be on us. Salah's going to try and dribble a few times, Trent's going to try put in a few crosses, Robertson's trying to put in a few crosses, but once that's over and they haven't scored, you're thinking, okay, cool, what next?
I mean, I know what you mean. Like, it feels, but then at the moment you can make the same argument about Chelsea. Like, if Lukaku doesn't score, what are Chelsea going to do? Like, I mean,
we've got Havertz, we've got Mount, we've got.
I know you've
Werner
got those guys, but they're not
bench.
scoring at the moment. Like, so it's perfectly reasonable to also say that like they will rediscover that balance and Trent will become a real danger from deep again. Like, you're doing exactly the same thing as you're doing with Pulisic or Havertz. Like, Pulisic, I think is an amazing player. Pulisic, if you put him in Arsenal's attack, he'd instantly be our best attacker. But and he's like your fourth best. But right now, you know, you're basically saying, oh well, he has this talent that will appear at some point. You can make exactly the same argument with Trent and Robertson, and I do think that maybe now with Elliott out, Klopp might try something else. I think his plan was that Elliott was going to be that link man this season. He'll have to rethink it. I mean, to go back to what you were saying before about depth, I think it's what I can't see Liverpool doing in a way I can with Chelsea and City is doing what they did a few years ago, which is compete for the title and reach the Champions League final. I don't think they have the depth to do that. I think they're basically in a position of choosing one or the other, unless they get incredibly lucky with injuries, and they're not going to now because their forward line are all 29. Van Dijk is coming off a serious injury. You know, guys like Gomez and Konate are pretty injury prone as well. But what scares me the most about Liverpool is probably the fact that I feel like you can't get out against them. Like, Arsenal have taken beatings from Chelsea and from City already this season. But against City had some ropey moments in that first 10, 15 minutes, and Arsenal were able to get out against them. Against Chelsea, there were lots of points where Reece James was out of position, probably should have given away a penalty. Like, there were some times where Smith Rowe was able to turn and run into the centre of the park. And I'm not saying that those were like, you know, huge opportunities or whatever. But when I've watched us play Liverpool in the past, like, it's like kicking a ball against a wall. Like, it just comes back again and again and again and again. And that, to me, is one of the hardest things about playing Liverpool. It's those relentless attacks. Like, the way that Chelsea had to defend against Liverpool with 10 men is the way that 90% of teams in the world have to defend against Liverpool with 11 men. It's that difficult.
I don't know though, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it from a different perspective, but I feel like after the first 10 minutes in that second half when we were down to 10 men, it's like we almost saw what they would like. It was so predictable, and
yeah, but you're one of the best defensive sides in the world, Sam.
Yeah, that's fair. but I just don't know, man. I feel like Liverpool, like we've said with City and with other teams in the league, there's just that option to switch it up. But when they've sold Shaqiri now, you've got Origi coming off the bench. Obviously, Jota's still a very good signing, but he's almost he's good. But Ox, like you said, Ox, Jones, these players, they're not really like game changers. They're not players that you can see. And obviously we're talking about the starting XI, but I'm thinking if we had to say, okay, all of these XIs had to go the whole season without no subs, which is obviously not real. Yeah. I feel like you're not overdoing how good Liverpool are, because they are really good. But I just think the fact that they play in one way would be easier for teams to play against and to defend against as well.
No, but if you're going the whole season with just this starting 11 and no subs, you are kind of limited to playing one way. Like Chelsea wouldn't be able to bring on, a Werner or a Pulisic or a Hudson-Odoi to change things up. If you said you had to play with these 11s all season, I would put Chelsea quite a way behind the other two, actually. Because I think one of the things that makes Chelsea good is the fact that Tuchel is amazing at changing things up, and that you have so much weird attacking talent on the bench that you can basically play like in a number of different styles. Liverpool can't play in a number of different styles. I agree with you, but Liverpool's first 11 is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Are we really okay? Should we bring this to like a head then? Because like Sam, are you gonna say that of these teams, would you say that Chelsea have the best starting 11?
Starting 11, like,
I'm not going to take the piss.
Is it if we're talking like as a team, and the way that we're seeing them play right now, I'd have to say we have the best starting 11 because of the fact the way we play, the way everyone works in the system, how good everyone is in the system. I think in our team, we've got a player that's in the top 3 or in the top 2 in his position in the league, or even, okay, I won't go that far. I won't go in the world because
how many players? How many? Okay,
but I think Mendy is definitely. I think Mendy is definitely top 2 in the league. I think out of our defense, I think
top
Silva,
2 keepers in the league.
I think. Have you seen the amount of clean sheets this guy's kept since he's been in the league? You can't take that away from him. What do you mean though? You can't take that away from him because he's made huge
had an incredible amount.
Defending is a team activity, Sam.
No, but you can't take away the huge save that he's made, bro.
I'm not saying he's not a good keeper. I'm saying top 2 keepers in the league.
Top 2 is a stretch. Yeah.
Top 2 keepers in the league puts him above like at least 2 out of like Alisson, Edison, De Gea. I don't know, whoever else.
I think he's better than De Gea. I'd say top 3 then. Okay, so if I'm saying top 3 in all the positions, yeah, Silva is 100% one of the top 3 centre backs in the league. Yeah, there's even an argument that Silva, Rudiger, and Christensen deserve in that top 5 spot. Not being funny, yeah. The fullbacks wise or wing backs wise, Alonso, since he's been in the team, obviously everyone has their mind about how good he is if we were to play a 4 in the back. But in this system, he's very good. Like, he is very good. The same with James on the other side. In our midfield, Gorgino, Kante, Kovacic. In the top 5. Striker. Top. Midfielders, Mount or Havertz. Who would get above them? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think
De Bruyne.
Yeah.
Like Sam, I get your argument. What your argument really boils down to, though, I think you're like maybe a little bit ill-advised to go down like top 2 or 3 in the league like argument. I think your argument here really is that the balance overcomes the fact that player quality is actually not as high as it is for Liverpool.
Yeah, no, facts. But I also think that side of it as well is being, you're not appreciating how good these guys are because you think it's just system. It's not just system. They've always had this ability. Tuchel has just merged the ability and the system that he has, and he's made it work.
Didn't have to hear that absolute nonsense that you were saying. Like, no, we are appreciating that. We're saying what makes Chelsea like contenders for every big trophy in the game is the fact that like they do have enough talent and the team is really nicely balanced because you've got an amazing manager. But I think individual talent, I'm going to go Liverpool. James?
Yes.
How are you feeling? Are you going to go for City as well? We've got no answer.
See, I if I was to rank them, I think Sam's argument is doesn't work in this. It's purely for this category. Because let's say Edison, for example. Edison has won countless clean sheets, got the Golden Glove, whatever. But you put him in a different side, he's not doing as well as he is. So when it comes to players like Alonso and yes, they work perfectly in this system, but the individual quality of the player isn't adaptable. And I think the same could be said for Edison. Like, his quality in terms of on the ball makes him a brilliant keeper for City. We saw that, like, we got rid of Joe Hart for that reason, brought in Bravo. That obviously didn't work. But you can see how a specific player in a specific system, can look better than they are, if that makes sense. Or, is them at their peak. They will never get better than they are now. And the fact that, like, I know that you put Alonso in a different side, he is not playing anywhere, or a different system, sorry, he's not playing anywhere near the same. Like Victor Moses from a few seasons ago is a perfect example of that. Like, was amazing under Conte, but awful everywhere else. But I do think if I was to rank them in 3, I would put Chelsea as in the individual quality for a starting 11. It goes for me Chelsea, and then begrudgingly I will say City, then Liverpool. Because
no, but that's what I'm saying. It's a completely different conversation. If you're just saying the ability of each player, forget about what we've seen so far this season. Obviously, it's Liverpool or City.
To be fair, that was the question.
No,
yeah,
but
that is the question.
But the whole
best
premise
squad,
of this,
who is the best,
but the squad,
best team is different.
Okay,
but who is the best on paper 11?
Yeah,
because I can see, like, if you put, because my way of thinking about this is, let's say we signed these players. Let's say we signed Trent. Let's say we signed Robertson. Let's say we signed... All these players would be as good, if not better, at City. Obviously, when you look at Chelsea, they will be... Or most of the players will improve or at least be as good as they are now. But I don't see it as much. Like, Rudiger will just be like another Laporte, where, like, Van Dijk comes... Obviously, Van Dijk's a bit of an... Let's say Silva and Van Dijk. Let's just take them, for example, because I would say Silva's your best defender, I think, in your opinion. And Van Dijk being Liverpool's best. It's clear for me that Van Dijk's better.
Yeah, this is
the fullbacks. It's clear, like... But the argument with City, there's a bit more in it, I feel, because we've got a few more players who you could argue are the best in the world. But I just still don't, or in the best in the league, sorry. But I still don't see it as much as Liverpool. So begrudgingly we'll go Liverpool.
Yeah, I just think that if we were to build the best 11 from these three sides,
you think Liverpool would have the most players?
I think Chelsea would have 2 players. And that's not an insult. It's just like, it's a testament to the quality. I think they'd have 2 players, because I just think, like, I think Rudiger's been amazing recently, but does he get in there over Diaz and Van Dijk? No, he doesn't. Does Mendy get in there over Alisson and Edison?
Man.
No, he doesn't.
I just think that there's an element of rating Chelsea, but also underrating the ability of each player. But I get it, because you guys might not watch them as consistently. You might not see how good they are as individuals as well. But the reality is, it's much better than you're saying. But I hear it. I hear the fact that Liverpool have most of the players. Like, if you look at their team, if you were to do a head-to-head with all of the teams that we mentioned, they would have majority of their squad, because in individual quality, you've seen it more. Do you know what I mean? The system that they play in, you're allowed to see it more, and that's another thing that I'm saying works against them as well, though, because it's not always just about the individual. When that stops, or when that person gets injured or whatever, it's the system. How does the system accommodate every player that comes in? But Liverpool can have it.
That's why we've seen City dominate over Liverpool, because we've got more depth, we've got a more kind of adaptable system. But I think the fact that we play football that wins leagues, wins titles, but if like, because I it's quite annoying that the question is, like, who is the starting 11 on paper, because it is Liverpool, but I don't think they're the best. Like, this season, I can see this is the top 3 for the Premier League, no shadow of a doubt. This will be the top 3. But I do think Liverpool will be third of them, because once again I think depth will, catch them up again, and they won't be, you can't keep doing the same thing for this long. They can't keep getting away with it.
I kind of agree with that. Like, maybe this will placate you, Sam. I do actually agree that I think Liverpool's chances for the title, I'd say they're probably like neck and neck with Chelsea, but like, when you factor in depth as well, like if you really made me bet, I probably would put Liverpool third, like at the end of the season. Even though I do think they have the best starting 11, just because I think that starting 11 will get out there less often than they'd like it to. And I think that Chelsea, when they start just like a total nobody, like Chalobah, or when they start like Hudson-Odoi on the wing, like who almost never plays despite being amazing every time I watch him, like they'll be fine. Like it doesn't affect them because their system is the thing. Liverpool, I don't know, like these guys, these attackers getting up to 29 now, all of their backline have had significant injuries at some point pretty much at this stage. Like you start to think this system is not as robust as you would like it to be. But anyway, I don't know. This has been Chelsea Fan TV with like guest performances from me and James Waine.
Nah, you know what they're gonna just get onto me again for always backing. But like, bro, I don't know. I'm not even trying to get ahead of myself, but it's like we're almost seeing like a team not even getting to the heights that they can, and that's what's exciting about it. But I do think that Liverpool and City are probably. I think there's more excitement with Chelsea because we're coming from that place where we weren't that great. Liverpool and City have been there, so it's like there's not that much excitement to it. The same thing with United. Obviously, there's going to be United fans that are probably annoyed that we didn't mention them too tough. But in terms of their whole squad, it's just I don't think it's the same as these three teams. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I think there's just more excitement. There's definitely excitement with the United squad, but I think Ole ruins that excitement. But with Tuchel and Chelsea,
100%.
Yeah. Plus, you just look at like the weakest positions in that United 11, and you're just like, defensive midfield is like embarrassingly weak. Like, I mean, like Arsenal and Spurs have got like 3 or 4 midfielders who would go into central midfield for Man United. Like, now obviously Man United are a lot better, but like, is Fred or McTominay better than Partey or better than like a fully fit Ndombele or better than Højbjerg or whatever? Like, I'm not convinced, to be honest. So I think that really lets them down. Anyway, somehow we've got to an hour of this. Thank you very much for joining me today, guys. Sam, do you have anything to plug before we say goodbye?
Snapchat is there as usual, Football Daily or Transfer Talk, and I've also started a new podcast with Sav as well. It's called On The Rocks Podcast, so if you want to check that out, that would be amazing.
Nice. James Waine, what do you have to plug?
I've been cracking on with the FD and EFD Explains, currently doing one on why Salah is the best winger the Premier League has ever seen, so keep your eyes out for that one, and just watch Sam's podcast. I've been watching every episode minute to minute, and it's good. It's very, very, very good. So
thanks,
go watch
man.
that.
You legend.
Nice. Well, make sure that you go and check that out and enjoy some of our videos. Drop us a like if you've enjoyed this one and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye.